Welcome back to Tama Anime Review. This is episode number 2. This I'm reviewing the second season of the Tama anime. Before I get to this particular season, there's one thing in particular I forgot to mention. Kagura's father, when he's writing her letter when she's out in space in season 1, apparently he travels to the series of Mobile Suit Gundam for some reason, and has a conversation with Char Aznavour. I'm not kidding. It is him. If you watch the episode, you're like, if you watch Mobile Suit Gundam, you're like, that's Char Aznavour. What the heck is he doing in a series that came out roughly I think it was almost 30 years after, like about 26 years after his series ended? Yeah, it's really weird. Now, this season only has at least 3 filler episodes. Yep, 3. And the episodes are 50, 75, 50, 57, 75. 3 filler episodes. Well, that's not too bad. At least not a whole season of it like I've seen for other shows. Yep. Yeah, the first episode is basically like the sort of also like what the show's gonna be about. There's parodies of Star Wars in this one. George I think of Star Wars, Tarzan. There's one about a bromance. Yeah. There's even one that I think the sexy ninja who's in love with Geen. Even she suggests something really dark. The stuff that she suggests, it kind of reminds you of Death Note, or at least probably the Grunge series. It reminds me of the Grunge series, which is interesting. The fact they make a reference to that. After all, the original Grunge show was actually made in Japan. You always know about the Grunge because I've seen parts of the film. I've never watched the whole thing. Just never got a chance to watch it. Yep. But Geen is the one who makes the final decision, and he introduces the new opening theme for the season, which lasts for the first 75, at least from episodes 50 to 75, and then for the second half of the season, it's a completely different theme. The two themes that the season has, let's see. First one called Ginora no Sora. It was an okay theme. Then for the rest of the season, it's Katsura Kage. This one's a little bit more interesting, but I still like the original theme a lot better. Now for the arcs. This adapts 9 arcs manga, and the arcs they adapt are Infant Strife, Bazooka, Mother, Yaguya, Siba, Harborough Detective, Fu Arc, Atui Arc, Atui, and Hitsar Prosecution. Infant Strife, which is basically from like few chapters. I remember this one really well. Yeah, the Oddjobs find a baby on their doorstep, and they think it's Gein's because the baby has a striking resemblance to him. It turns out he really isn't the father. It turns out the baby belongs to somebody else. Heck, everybody assumes that this kid belongs to him, and Gein he does a really good job of babysitting this kid. Despite the fact he's never experienced as a father, he apparently takes care of this kid really, really well. The kid is very not very noisy. Apparently, the kid instead of using a stroller, it rolls around on those. My nephew has one of these. These thing you put a baby in and they roll on this little circle thing with local toys. Apparently, he's able to move around on this. And when the game is run away, picks thing up with him in it, and he runs around. Yeah, and the whole thing and this basically introduces the villain of the next arc. Well, one of the main villains, anyways. Yeah, it introduces one of the main villains of the Basel arc, which was adapted into the first Gintama film. I will get a chance to watch it, probably after I finish watching the series. So it won't be for a while, because I'm only 2 seasons in. And I guess this arc wasn't too bad. It was interesting, and it was kind of hilarious. Yeah, and it introduces a character known as the Butcher. Yeah, apparently is a blind swordsman. He's very good at his job, too. He's also really fast, despite the fact being blind. Yeah, according to him, he says he got this way because of an accident he suffered when he was much younger. I'm like, did the writer of the series rip up Daredevil? I mean, it wasn't a chemical spill. No, it was more like some kind of blinding light that basically caused him to get blind. And apparently, he it also enhanced his senses. So it's kind of like an evil version of Daredevil when I think of this character. And there's even a line. I'm a little surprised they actually kept this from the manga, where when he confronts the guy who's actually the kid's grandfather, because it turns out his father died, was a very sickly man, and he says to him, it's like he refers his mother's flat chest to your uh old man titties. Yes, that is an actual line he actually said from the episode. I'm surprised they kept that from the manga, and I don't know why in the world they would think about this about a woman's chest size. Seriously, heck, they even did the same thing to Sheen's older sister, where they call her flat chested. I'm like, okay, is this really necessary to talk about in an anime? To talk about a woman's chest is flat or big? They do the same thing in Bleach. As a matter of fact, several series I've watched where a lot of the women, even few of the guys, talk about a woman's chest size. It goes for nuts. Mm-hmm. This so far was a really good arc. I liked it. The next few episodes after this one, between this one and the dark arc, those got really dark for a few episodes, are simply put five episodes. Yeah, from episodes 50, I think it's like 50, what, 52, I think it is? Yeah, from episodes 53 to 57, it's all standalone episodes. I think so, right? Oh, it's not. Actually, just for one episode, it's a standalone. Yeah, this one's about a Genkai meeting a female fighter who actually does come back in arc I just finished up. Yeah, a smoking hot female fighter. Now, I'm looking at these firefighters, I'm like, okay, they have modern technology and yet they're still fighting in normal clothes. Now, firefighters of today wear these yellow protective suits, hats, and oxygen masks and they wear gloves. These guys hardly much of anything. Oh yeah, and when she actually catches the arsonist, who's this really nutsy guy, and turns out Gein's one catches him. Yeah, of course he also beat the crap out of him off screen. And she and her sort of her adoptive father says, not up with Nancy Drew stuff. I'm like, I don't know why in the world that a writer would, I don't know why the series would mention an American a fictional American character like Nancy Drew. Yeah, and her outfit is particularly a little weird. It's kind of like it's like she wears a komodo in a way, but with the top part folded down, and she wears like pants and it's partially open. Yeah, it's kind of like she's wearing like a robe in a way, but that's how she dresses. And after she saves an old man, she gets famous in papers by referred to as the beautiful fighter, Tsunami. Yeah, that's really her name, Tsunami. And it turns out that the guy who actually raised her was actually the one who saved her from a fire that killed her parents. And it turns out that the arsonist in the episode is the one who set the fire who killed her parents. Yes, the same guy. Just by sheer coincidence. This also happened in another episode where the one they went after, is someone closely related to them. Yeah, I don't know if it's just by sheer coincidence, but it's really weird. But overall, it was a great episode. The next couple ones are, the mother arc, where a mother from the countryside sort of hires odd jobs looking for her son that apparently stops writing to her for some reason. They do find him very quickly. They assume it's this guy with this humongous afro. Turns out, nope, it's actually not him. It's actually his boss, who's actually the person who's his old lady's son. And they get interacted with a guy who's one of these she devils. Yeah, they interact with another one of these guys in the previous season, where it's a guy who dresses like a girl. It's not a transvestite per se, but it's a style he does. It's really weird. Apparently, once in a while, this guy became famous for beating up a bunch of aliens in nothing but a leotard. Yeah, so basically almost a butt naked warrior. But at least he was decent enough to cover up his private parts. Yeah, and he does pretty much the same thing in here, where he beats up one alien who was brought to Earth by the idiot prince, who has his own interest theme for some reason. It's kind of like a jungle animal whenever he shows up, which is really weird. I remember one episode of season 1, it's like, we just stopped coming to Earth. He's like, yeah, and he still comes to Earth, despite the fact that he keeps getting in trouble by bringing these stupid creatures to Earth. It's really weird. Yeah, so overall, it was a pretty good little two-parter, and a nice way to lead up. And pretty much after that, it is definitely like two straight standalone episodes. One is basically where a singer, the fictional audio singer in the show, becomes chief for a day. That was interesting. I thought it was one of the more better episodes of season 1. Probably my first ever standalones. Then another episode, the request received from stolen cargo. Yeah, and the people who actually stole the cargo are actually some people that Gene was actually after in the previous season by pure accident, involving like a giant cat, and he apparently does not remember it. And here's the thing, he was out and about looking for a replacement fan, and I'm surprised they brought back this guy. It's really weird. And this is a filler episode, nonetheless. Yeah, it's a filler. And then 5 episodes, the show gets very dark. Like almost, it's like the animators put a lot of their budget into this particular 5-parter. It filled with action, suspense, and it was at least interesting. It's probably for a series that's usually a comedy. I like the fact they went down this dark route and they stuck pretty close to the original manga. And wow, the sword that this Bazu is basically, it's like this gigantic pink colored blade that apparently is infused with alien technology, and also the Butcher is the one who actually has the thing. And it's one of the most exciting arcs of the entire season. It's the whole thing basically is Elizabeth Zura's pet, who is basically a guy in a penguin suit, which for some reason he thinks is a girl. Yeah, this character's never been properly fully explained at this point. Apparently, is actually one of 3 Elizabeths. Yep. So yeah, Geen gets injured. Shin's sister basically looks after him in his apartment, and eventually she repairs his clothes, and he goes out fighting. He does defeat the Butcher, and then eventually the Hazo Pirates in the first arc show up, which I'm like, that's weird. They bring these guys back. Yeah, and also another character from that arc does come back in a later episode. I'll get to that soon. Yep. And this was by far a really good arc, and even mentioned the anime. It's like okay, now Dark Silver's over. Let's go back to business as usual. Yeah. Oh yeah, and also the sister of the guy who actually made the sword. It's implied that she developed an attraction to Geen, but she shows up in another episode briefly, and she doesn't show up a season ever again. And after that, let's see. Yeah, after that, there's not a arc. Not for at least 14 episodes. Yeah, I'm not kidding about that. There's like 14 episodes of like 5. Actually, it's more like 13 straight episodes of stand stuff. Yeah, from episodes 60. I think it's 63, right? Yeah, from episodes 63. No, yeah, from 63 to 60. Actually, it's more like 6. Yeah, from 63 to 6, like 6 straight standalone episodes. One involving a girl who's a big fan of Jump, reads the future. One involving Zora following around, looking for rhinoceros beetles. A competition episode. a Deliver Girl one, which also has Sa, Tama, that's basically her last name. Yeah, apparently she's working as a nurse at a hospital again, saying that because what happened in the previous episode of this girl who does deliveries, and apparently she's from a planet from high speeds, and apparently they don't believe in brakes, or at least never heard of them. Apparently she's got to keep winning her face. It's really weird of an episode. There's a sort of a haunted house episode, which is really nice. And then we have I think it's a three-parter, right? Yeah, it's a three-part involving an android. Yeah, Geen finds an android's head in the trash, and it turns out this thing is actually involved in some robot conspiracy. Yeah, which also involves the inventor guy who actually fixed his bike from a previous episode. Yeah, it turns out that he actually was an old rival of this doctor who built the scientist who built this robot. And he based his robot's appearance on his late daughter, who was very sickly, and apparently transferred her personality to this robot. And it was basically an army of made robots. Yeah, and this was a pretty good episode, really good three-parter. It's not as like big. It's not like dark like it was with the other arc, but this was at least interesting. It was like a robot rebelling, which was really interesting, and the fact that Edo got nearly destroyed because of this, and then the female robot just sort of sacrificed herself, but they do eventually fix her up, and she sort of survives, but she basically loses all of her memory from before, and she starts basically learning over again. But apparently she remembers things about samurai. Yep. Let's see. There's a couple of arcs kind of right after between that one, but after 71, yeah, there's about 4 episodes of standalones. Yeah, 4 episodes of standalones. One involving Sodoru getting possibly a girlfriend. Let's see. Also a driving school episode. Another about mushrooms, which was really weird. A zombie invasion. Yeah, that was funny. A recap episode. And then we have a much more little interesting arc. The Yagato arc. Yeah, basically in the manga was like 14 chapters. It was adapted to the anime for at least 5 episodes. Yeah, this basically involves a woman from Otia's past who, get this, was, even though she was born a woman, raised as a man, fell in love with Ursa. First, she saves her from being, like, bullied by some guys. And then she takes her to, like, this house, which, apparently this is also the same house that apparently Kaido is forced to go through arranged marriage with an alien gorilla who is a princess. And according to his boss, he says, because you're available and we need to keep diplomatic ties with this planet for some reason. A planet of apes. Yeah, it's really weird. And then eventually, sort of forces herself on Oda by making out with her. Yes, a lesbian kiss in an anime. And this is not hentai. Nope. Yeah, she seriously wants to be with her for some reason, about being a woman. Yeah, it's really, really weird. Apparently she's very comfortable with women. She's not comfortable with guys. Yep. So anytime a guy touches her, she basically goes nuts. Even a slight touch. Yeah, even by another episode when she shows up when she returns for a one-off episode. They eventually sort of free Oda from this forced marriage by participating in a competition we had to break all the opponents' plates. Yep, all their plates. And who comes to rescue her? Why, her brother, her stalker, her brother's 2 associates, this is of course Oda, or Otia, her brother associates Gin and Kagura, along with her stalker's 2 let's just say, subordinates. The Demon Vice Chief and Soto. Yep. These 6 people go to rescue her. Yeah, and they take on the 4 divas, Kaguya, and of course her grandfather, who's this very, very short little man. And apparently her clan is main branch are noteworthy for having members who are so freaking short. I mean, her father is simply about half the size of me. He looks like he's about 4'2". His father looks like he's about the size of an 8-year-old. I'm not kidding about that. He really is. And this is one really hilarious moment in the episode where the grandfather, Gene, Kaido, and one of the 4, let's just say 4 devils, where they have to basically hide out in the bath. They try to after they do their business because apparently they ate something and Cosmo all goes to the bathroom. And this is a hilarious thing. Apparently, because this bathroom is very rarely used, they never stock toilet paper in here. So all 4 of these guys are trapped in the bathroom because they can't do the next thing of wiping their rear ends before they actually go out. Yeah. All about toilet paper. Yeah, and they say he's missing about 3 episodes. Yeah, he's been in the toilet the reason why he's been the whole period of time. Yeah, how does Gene get out of the thing? By taking take a piece of currency from his wallet and using it to wipe his rear end with it. The old man uses a scroll, one of his family's scrolls, to use to wipe his rear because apparently there's no other paper. Heck, they even a suggestion of using sandpaper to wipe their rear ends with. I'm a little embarrassed to talk about this, but this is something that happens in the thing. They do eventually win. Jane takes out Yagura, and Sheen takes out her grandfather, and Otia's basically freed. No problem. She does give up the whole marriage thing, but she doesn't stop pursuing her anyways. Yep. Though she does return for a few one-off episodes. Yeah, one involving an episode where she's has to become a hostess because a lot of their hostesses all get codes except for the woman she loves. And she's the only one wearing a kimono. Everybody else has to wear freaking towels. It's so weird. I mean, why would a hostess wear a towel? Yeah, she does have like one involving a fat camp, which that was a little weird. Trying to think, there was a few other ones she should have for, but let's see. There's also, like, right after this one, there's one involving monsters, involving little balls. Turns out that probably this is some creature. Oh yeah, the woman from the Pirates arc, she came back for the second half of the episodes. Let's see. Yeah, talking about this one. Oh yeah, the Harbo Detective arc. Yeah, this is basically, it's kind of like this one is loosely inspired by American noir, film noir. And this guy's like, oh yeah, he's a hard-boiled detective in a corrupt world. That's kind of true, but I highly doubt that his boss is on the take. Yep. And he's been chasing this thief for 10 years. A thief called the Fox. Oh yeah, and it turns out the Fox, the one he's been chasing, is actually the one he's been basically taking drinks from. Yeah, it turns out he actually stopped doing it a little while ago, and it turns out, and we find out that apparently the Fox has been killing people, which apparently he didn't do before, and it turns out it was actually not the actual Fox, but one of those other guys, a part of the Nine-Tailed Fox. I'm like, did it make a reference to either an old Japanese folktale or Naruto with this thing? Heck, the beginning part is like all hard-boiled stuff. It's like this brief little thing, lasts about 5 minutes. It's really, really weird. It's interesting to see, but you don't see the hard-boiled detective at all. You hear him and his subordinate like about these first 5 minutes, but you don't see them. One involving a bomb, like smoking or whatever. It's really weird. And apparently his boss doesn't like the fact that he, does the hard-boiled stuff. There's this one really funny more. Kagura gets her hands on a motorcycle that the hard-boiled detective brings. She just roams around thinking, causes a distraction. Eventually, the foxes are defeated, and they eventually do prevent them from stealing. They may not catch the fox, but at least they stop his theft. Yep. And then, of course, it turns out the guy who, this particular fox, has a connection to the hardboiled detective beyond the whole thing of serving him drinks and being the fox. Turns out he actually is the one who saved him as a child, and these other foxes are the one who killed his family. Okay, this is just by sheer coincidence that the people they've been fighting are also the people who are responsible for a personal tragedy involving fire. Yeah, that was just by sheer coincidence of the fact that the writer did that. And then we have an arc involving Soda's sister. This particular arc I thought was pretty interesting. It also reveals that Hitsugaya, the demon vice chief, yeah, apparently Soda's sister is in love with him. And he apparently does love her, but I think because of his lifestyle, he just wants to have a normal life. And when she basically is very ill. She's got like lung cancer. Did she smoke? Did she suffer from secondhand smoke? They don't explain how she got it. She just somehow is sick with this lung disease, and she's engaged to a merchant. Oh yeah, it turns out the reason why the merchant actually was engaged to her was so that he can get sort of a wave of immunity because he's married to a relative, one of the Shinigami. And eventually Hisugawa basically does arrest him, and she eventually does die beside her dear brother. And she's very happy the fact, and apparently it's all revealed in this little two-parter that he's been sending her money once a month to basically survive, which that's very nice of him to do, especially since it's also revealed that she's the one who's been raising him. And Kaido, despite him being, well, infatuated with women, he doesn't make a big move on her at all because he's known her for a long time. And the way it's pointed out is that he kind of treats her like she's like his own daughter in a way. And because she was getting married, she's like, yeah, we're going to have the whole Shinigami attending her wedding, which is nice to do. And it's nice that despite being the merchant guy being kind of shady, he's very nice to Soda. He's very nice to him. Treats him a good amount of respect, like a future brother-in-law would. Yeah, and then he's the guy who basically takes him down and keeps the whole secret the fact that Soda's sister's future husband is involved with the black market, and he takes him down by himself. But I'm sure that Koda basically probably checks him for. Also, this arc is noteworthy for not having Kagura or Shinji pop up in it. I think that was a little weird. It's like. Whatever. Yeah, just my dad. Yeah, they eventually do catch him, and then she later dies. Right beside her brother, which I thought that was a nice touching moment. And then we see Hisugawa basically on the roof smoking and eating spicy potato chips. Yeah, apparently she developed the same kind of thing he did because trying to do something like addicted to one thing. He's addicted to mayonnaise, and she's addicted to spicy things. Yeah. Yeah, so I thought that was really cool. Mm-hmm. What else here? Then like right after that. Oh yeah, then involving other episode involving God's Return. Involving like a group date. Which was a pretty interesting little episode. And I may show up wearing a sort of a wedding dress as group date, which that was a little weird. Yeah. Oh, this one, 89. I just watched this one last night. This is a Bleach parody episode. Yeah, where first we see Kagura, Jean, and Gin and Shin end up in the world of Gin's wooden sword, who has a spirit, and it's a parody of Zangetsu from Bleach. No joke, he seriously is. He has like the glasses and everything, teaching this special move. Turns out they didn't get the special move, so they eventually left. And then we cut to probably one of the most memorable moments of the whole episode. Kaido, Hitsuga, and Soto wake up in a white void. Of course, when Oddjobs wake up in the void, it was a black void, so it was a white void, and they ran across a goddess who, believe it or not, looks exactly like Orihime, except she's butt naked, and the only piece of clothing she wears the whole episode is an apron. And she knows the goddess of victory. And then there's a parody of Ichigo shows up in the episode too, because apparently of her past loves, and it's Ichigo in his hollow mask. My guess is the reason why they have him wear like a variant of the hollow mask, just to avoid copyrights, a copyright thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was one of my personal favorite episodes, and seeing a version Orihime, which is, yeah, and heck, they put a note like a top. Yeah, this is clearly based on Orihime. Yep. Let's see. Next time, hits Iowa, basically being hit by a car. The hospital, this nurse thought that feelings for Katsura was actually for Elizabeth, which was really weird. The wake camp thing, which I mentioned before. An assassin. This was a really weird episode, so I skipped through it. A Valentine's Day episode, which is a Ultraman parody involving one called Superwoman and chasing down a robot. Mm-hmm. And then we have a two-part involving a prosecution, with Hitsuga being charged being, doing a muscle and doing a molestation. In the manga, this only took up just a few chapters. The arc, like the persecution arc. I thought this was like 10 chapters. In the manga, this took up 3 chapters. In the anime, was 2. And from what I could tell, it proceeded like exactly the way it was so funny. And they even threw some reference to Heidi of all things. Now, I've never watched Heidi, but I actually watched part of the American version. I've never seen the Japanese version. But like apparently, dog named Peter and Heidi. It's really, really weird. Yeah, it's like objections, like all about like, yeah, and this prosecutor who really wants Asuka's wife so badly, he's basically forcing divorce his wife just so he can marry her. And eventually, later on, finds that he's actually had a string of girlfriends, all of whom are very wealthy. Yep. Eventually, the guy is convicted, but not of the charge you executed for the episode. Yeah, the judge says, you're guilty of causing your wife grief. And your punishment? Go chase after her. Yeah, that is so hilarious. And as for you, Mr. Prosecutor, we're gonna have some. We're gonna invest it. We're gonna give you a punishment later. Yeah. This was a particularly funny arc, especially Gene being a lawyer. Last time I checked, he's not a licensed attorney, yet he was able to get away with this nonsense. Yep. Let's see. Oh yeah, this one, 96. Yeah, there's this like giant thing called Atlas, and they mentioned the device where this apparently this happened in an anime called Space Pirate Hardock. I have heard of this particular anime, never watched it. I've heard from one person described as one of the most boringest anime he ever watched. I personally never watched it. I've heard of it. I've seen images of what Space Pirate Hardock looks like. Never watched the show. Never watched it. I have developed no interest to watch it, but I might be able to think of watching. Heck, they even references here to I think it's called D Gray, which is also like a high school anime. Yeah, they had one episode where they make several references to that throughout the course of this particular season of D Gray. Yeah, involving Kagura struggling on the planet and just free from these little balls, and him take out the captain of the volunteer army, because it's like, okay, you saved the planet for the sake of a woman, and he's like, Kagura, don't tell your mom about this. And there's jokes about his being bald, and eventually he gets his own hair back, and Oddjob's characters don't show up until like the last minute of the episode. Yep. This couple episodes is a 2-part involving gaming. The manga was 3 chapters. Yep. 3 chapters. Yeah. And all involving the show's version of a Wii. And they mentioned the Famicom, which is a real system. Yes, I have seen pictures of this thing. I've never physically played a Famicom. I've seen I've seen video footage of what this thing looks like. It's a Japanese version of an NES, but the big reference to Famicom a lot in this episode, this two-parter. And the thing looks like an Action Nintendo Wii, except the controller is different. The controller looks like a regular controller you would see for one of the other systems. Yeah, it looks like it kind of looks like in the shape of a giant bow tie. That's what the controller looks like. And they're playing like 3 different games, actually 4 different games. One is a girly game, which I know these games exist. I've seen these images in video. I have never played these games before. It's something where guys can usually, the way this game is supposed to work is that a guy is supposed to get along with a girl. Yep, it's one of those type of things. It's also special dialogue balloon, like alternate choices type of thing. You have the whole game's based upon this. I've heard these games do exist, mostly in Japan. I have heard that there have been some translated English over here, but it's not a big thing over here. It may be a big thing over Japan for video games, but not here. But the whole dialogue, the whole multiple choice thing for dialogue thing, that is popular mostly in action adventure games. Not much for this type of romance stuff. There's now involving a version of Tetris, involving a guy who pukes, which I thought was disgusting. Let's see what else. There was also, oh yeah, the third and final game was basically a VR game, which is a parody apparently of Dragon Quest. I've heard of this game. I've heard that the creator of Hunter x Hunter is a huge fan of this game. And he plays it a lot during his hiatuses. Yeah, he does. And apparently it's an RPG game. And then, like, apparently it's in the episode that the game has been delayed, the console has been delayed several times. I don't know if this is a joke for the Wii. I have no idea. I've never heard of a console where it's been delayed like 8 times for a release date. I have never heard of a console, basically, of doing this. The whole thing with the long lines for... This is just basically, that is actually true. I have seen on the news of stuff like this, of people waiting in line for like a new console or a new video game. This is nothing unusual. This is basically true to real life of stuff happening like this. And then eventually, after they find out that all of the games got bugs in it, the game is recalled to delay the release delayed again. There's also another episode involving Catherine facing her past. And also, Gene basically skipping out a job just to get a limited edition action figure of a reporter he's got a crush on. It's like, that's not for a rent. And she's like, nope. Got kicked out. And eventually, it's like, they have to work to pay off like 3 months worth of rent. And because they help Catherine, she's like, is that enough to pay off the 3 months worth of rent? It's like, no, that's number one. Yeah. And yeah, I know it was longer. But there was a lot of talk about when it comes to this particular season. This overall was a really good season, and I'm definitely looking forward to watching next season. I still got about 9 more seasons to go. Actually, it's 8 more seasons to go before I finish the season up, so to get the series caught up. Because I know for fact the series just aired its 362nd episode. This season was only 50 episodes long. It's 1 episode longer than the previous season. Next season is also 1 episode longer. It's also 50. It's kind of the same thing. 1 episode longer. Next season will be 51 episodes. That'll be season 3. What chapters is one? Like mostly one from for the arcs. 9 arcs. Season from. Yeah. For these particular episodes, it was like pretty much just past like episodes, like chapter like 46, 146, yeah, almost like close to about how first 150 chapters in just these 50 episodes. Okay, so that's really it for this particular episode. Not much to say, and those episodes were really long, but there was a lot to talk about for this particular season because it was really long. It took me a while to get through it. Hopefully, I'm hoping the next season does not take me a whole week to get through it, like it did the last couple seasons. Okay, but to see you in the next episode. Bye.